A woman has arrived at JFK Airport from a country that has never existed anywhere in history, Torenza.
What if a traveler arrived at an airport with a passport from a country that doesn't exist? No record, no history, not even a place on the map. The story might have ended there, until the internet claimed the Simpsons had predicted it 30 years earlier. That's when a simple passport became a global mystery. The arrival no one could explain. One evening, a short TikTok video appeared online. 1 minute long, labeled "Mysterious Traveler Detained at JFK." The video played like a real news broadcast, complete with a calm anchor, a rolling headline, and the faint hum of airport chatter beneath his voice. The report began with the image of two customs officers behind a counter. A woman stood before them, clutching a dark blue passport. The camera focused on the golden emblem pressed into the cover, Republic of Torenza. According to the narration, the traveler had arrived from an international flight, claiming to be from a country that no one had ever heard of. The officers flipped through the pages slowly, their expressions shifting from routine to uncertainty. The woman's eyes followed every movement of their hands. When one of them typed her information into the computer, the system froze. He tried again. Still nothing. The woman's polite smile faded. Her lips tightened as she gripped her handbag, confusion rising in her face. The second officer leaned over to help, frowning at the screen. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The anchor's voice explained that the woman said she was from a small island between Japan and a place called Dora. The camera cut back to the officers exchanging tense glances. One asked her to show it on a map. She pointed to a blank patch of the Pacific Ocean. The clip caught her whispering, barely audible. "That cannot be right." Supervisors arrived. The passport was examined under a lamp. Watermarks shimmered under the light. The hologram shifted perfectly with the tilt of the page. The stamps from Tokyo, Singapore, and Sydney appeared authentic. Nothing about the document seemed fake, except for one problem. The country it belonged to wasn't found on any map. The final sequence showed her being escorted down a hallway toward a small holding area. Her steps were slow, uncertain. The anchor's tone softened as he explained that she was being detained overnight for verification. The last image showed her glancing back toward the evidence counter, her expression caught somewhere between fear and disbelief. Then the screen went black. New text appeared across the bottom. By morning she was gone. The anchor's voice returned, lower this time. He said her bed was untouched, the door locked from the outside and the passport missing from evidence. The clip ended on one line that viewers would replay over and over. Officials remain unsure where the traveler came from or where she went. Within hours, it was everywhere. The video crossed 1 million views before sunrise. Reddit filled with theories. YouTube channels released breakdowns titled "The Woman Who Shouldn't Exist." On X, users posted quick takes and memes. Some called it a government cover-up. Others said she had slipped through from a parallel world. One caption read, "She checked into JFK and out of reality." The phrase "ghost traveler" began trending across platforms as people reenacted the clip using fake passports and green screens. Skeptics tried to slow the frenzy. They called it a misunderstanding, a lost record, a system error. But every attempt to explain it away only made the mystery grow. Bloggers pointed to the missing footage. Others said the airport's silence meant something was being hidden. The internet had found its next obsession. Then, late one night, a Reddit post appeared, one that would take the story far beyond a missing traveler. When the Simpsons entered the mystery. On Reddit, a user posted that the Simpsons had already shown the Torenza passport incident nearly 30 years ago. The post included 2 screenshots that seemed to confirm it. In one image, a woman wearing a gray suit stood at an airport counter, holding out a blue passport while Homer and Marge looked on. In the other, a glowing map displayed an island labeled Torenza between Japan and another place marked Dora. The caption under the post read, "Season 6, Episode 10. the traveler from Torenza, 1994. At first, only a few people commented. They asked if anyone remembered the episode. Within hours, replies began pouring in. Some users swore they had seen it on TV when they were kids. Others described the exact dialogue they remembered. One claimed that Marge had said, "That country is not on any map," while Homer replied, "Then where did she come from?" According to one thread, a fan had even found the supposed air date listed on an old TV schedule. No one could prove it, but the illusion of memory was enough. People were convinced it had happened. Fan pages across Facebook and X picked up the story next. They reposted the same two screenshots and added their own commentary. Many pointed out how similar the passport looked to the one in the viral TikTok video. Even the fonts matched. A few users combined both clips into a short comparison video, showing the cartoon scene fading into the real footage. It looked seamless. Viewers said it felt impossible for two separate things to line up so perfectly. Websites that specialize in pop culture trivia joined in. They listed the alleged episode title and year, along with side-by-side analyses. Some articles claimed that the Simpsons writers must have known something or had access to classified information. A few even hinted at government ties or predictive programming. The theories spread faster than the debunking. According to social media analytics shared later, the phrase, "The Simpsons predicted Torenza," became the top trending sentence of the week. By midweek, the internet had split in two. On one side were skeptics who called the claim ridiculous. On the other were believers who felt vindicated. They argued that The Simpsons had predicted so many things before that this could not be coincidence. Influencers and TikTok creators uploaded reaction videos, some acting shocked, others saying they were not surprised at all. Commenters wrote that this was proof that reality repeats itself and that cartoons know more than the news. The debate filled every platform, turning what had started as a strange airport story into a cultural event. According to one pop culture journalist, the situation revealed how deeply the show had settled into people's minds. For millions, The Simpsons was no longer just a cartoon. It had become a kind of mirror for real life. When something strange happened, people no longer asked if it was true. They asked if The Simpsons had predicted it first. But before the truth unraveled, the myth grew stronger. The world began remembering other times. The Simpsons had predicted the future. The prophetic history of The Simpsons. For more than 30 years, The Simpsons had captured almost every part of modern life. Over 700 episodes had turned the cartoon into a timeline of politics, technology, and pop culture. Viewers joked that if something existed, The Simpsons had already made fun of it. But after the Torenza screenshots appeared, that joke began to sound like a warning. People started listing every prediction the show had ever gotten right, and the list was longer than anyone expected. Fans brought back the most famous examples. They pointed out that The Simpsons showed Donald Trump as president long before his real campaign began. They replayed the old episode that featured characters using smartwatches and making video calls years before those technologies became common. They reminded each other that the show had joked about Disney buying Fox and about SpaceX launching commercial flights. Even the smallest coincidences, like a gag about a tiger attack or a malfunctioning voting machine, were treated as proof. Every connection made the legend stronger. The more examples people found, the darker the tone became. Posts began to appear claiming that The Simpsons had predicted political assassinations, natural disasters, and market crashes. According to unverified reports, one clip from the late 1990s appeared to show a character resembling activist Charlie Kirk being shot in front of a crowd. It spread across TikTok with claims that the show had foreseen the recent incident years in advance. No one could find the episode in official archives, but the footage looked old enough to feel real. Commenters said it was more than coincidence. They said it was prophecy. Memes and edits turned into what people believed was evidence. Whenever something unusual happened, someone would post a screenshot of The Simpsons doing it first. The phrase "The Simpsons predicted it" became a reflex online. It reached the point where even news outlets began asking whether the cartoon had become a digital oracle. Pop culture analysts called it the new mythology of the internet age. Stories told not through religion or superstition, but through pixels and nostalgia. The show had become a collective memory that people trusted more than reality itself. The Toenza case fit that myth perfectly. It was bizarre, global, and eerily precise. The idea that the Simpsons had foreseen a traveler from a country that did not exist sounded absurd, but it also made emotional sense. The world had already accepted that the show could predict the future. To many, this was just another entry on the list. But as the theory reached its peak, a quieter question began to surface. If the episode was real, where was it? Why was it missing from every streaming service, every fan archive, every DVD collection? Some said it had been pulled to hide its accuracy. Others believed it had aired once and been erased. A few suggested it had been censored for showing something the public was not supposed to see. That question became the turning point. Investigators began tracing the source of the screenshots and the alleged footage. What they found would shake the entire story. The investigation. Cracks in the frame. As the Torenza story reached its peak, a small group of digital investigators began digging into the viral video that had captured the world's attention. They were not from any official agency. They were editors, coders, and journalists scattered across time zones, connected only by group chats and forum threads. According to online reports, their mission was simple: find the truth buried in the pixels. Was the Torenza video real, or had the entire world fallen for an elaborate fake? They began with the basics, the footage itself. When they slowed it down frame by frame, the first cracks appeared. Shadows did not line up with the lighting in the room. A reflection on the counter shifted even though no one moved. The anchor's eyes blinked twice in the same instant, like a glitch in a digital render. On paper, these were small flaws, the kind that often appear in edited footage, but together they formed a pattern. According to one analyst, it looks like a broadcast that's too perfect. Everything about it feels slightly wrong. Then came the sound. Volunteers extracted the audio and ran it through voice recognition tools. The waveform matched almost perfectly with an AI text-to-speech program commonly used for automated news content. The discovery seemed to settle the debate, until they checked the release date of the voice model. It had only been made public months after the first upload of the Torenza clip. Some argued that meant the voice was replaced in later versions. Others said the creator might have had early access to unreleased software. Either way, it didn't fit neatly into the timeline. The background visuals told their own story. Parts of the airport scene were traced to stock footage available on commercial websites. The same hallway, the same luggage carousel, all reused from older videos shot in Europe and Southeast Asia. That explained most of the clip, but not all of it. One shot stood out. It showed the woman from a different angle, standing near a boarding gate that no one could identify. The reflection behind her included signage that didn't match any known airport. To some, it was proof the creator had blended real and fake footage. To others, it suggested the scene might not have been staged entirely. Attention shifted to the passport. According to multiple investigators, the design matched a 3D model posted on an artist's portfolio months before the video appeared online. It had the same navy cover, gold emblem, and embossed lettering. But there was one difference. The artist's version contained 4 stars around the crest. The viral one had 5. That slight change divided opinion. Was it an edit meant to hide the source, or was it evidence the design was based on something authentic? Even the news banner at the bottom of the screen raised suspicion. In one upload it read NBS, in another it read CBS. Everything else, the animation, font size, and movement, was identical. For experts, this proved someone had re-rendered the same file twice. For believers, it meant there might be 2 versions of the same broadcast, one real, one altered. By the time the investigation reached mainstream news, the internet was torn. The evidence pointed clearly to a forgery, yet some details refused to fit the pattern. What millions had taken as a breaking news report now looked like a digital patchwork stitched together from different times, places, and technologies. But even with mounting proof that it was fake, many refused to believe it. That stubborn doubt set the stage for the next revelation, one that would change everything. Because when investigators turned their attention to The Simpsons, they found something far stranger. The reveal that shook the internet. When the arguments hit a wall, investigators went to the one place that could end the debate. They asked for access to The Simpsons archives. According to reports, researchers pulled episode lists, script summaries, and production notes covering more than 700 episodes. They checked season guides, DVD compilations, and internal databases used by the studio. If an episode called The Traveler from Torenza existed, it would appear somewhere. It did not. There was no record of that title. There was no log of an airport storyline that matched the screenshots. Archivists searched character lists and prop notes for anything named Torenza. Nothing turned up. The silence in the record said more than any debate online. The episode people remembered was not there. Attention shifted to the screenshots that had lit the fire. Investigators traced the images backward, following reposts until they reached AI image boards. There they found the original posts that generated them. The prompts were simple. They combined Simpsons, airport, and passport, with a few extra words to force a blue booklet into the character's hand. The images looked like real frames because the AI was trained on decades of recognizable scenes. It knew the color palette. It knew the style of the characters. It knew how to fake a memory that felt familiar. Metadata from the files made the timing impossible to ignore. The images were created in 2025, not 1994. The supposed air date printed under some reposts was a digital timestamp added later to make the claim stronger. According to several analysts, even the font used for the fake date did not match the show's style from the 1990s. Viewers had not found proof. They had been handed a perfect imitation. For many, that was the real shock. The story was never about a cartoon seeing the future. It was about an algorithm predicting what people would believe. The AI did not only generate a picture, it produced a memory that felt right because the audience already trusted The Simpsons as a cultural mirror. Nostalgia did the rest. People filled in the blanks with things they were sure they had seen before. Skeptics said the case was closed. Believers pushed back. Some argued that a short test scene might have existed off the books. Others said the studio could have buried a draft. But the paper trail did not support it. The episode everyone quoted had never aired, never been scripted, and never appeared in any official record. What millions accepted as prophecy turned out to be the first viral hoax that manufactured its own prediction. The internet settled for a moment. Then researchers turned to something older, something that sounded too familiar to ignore. There was a forgotten story from 70 years earlier about a traveler with a passport from a country no one could find on any map. The ghost of the man from Tord. Long before Torenza, another traveler stirred the same kind of unease. According to retellings from the mid-20th century, Tokyo airport officials in 1954 detained a businessman who presented a passport from a country called Taured. He was described as calm and well-spoken. His briefcase held bank statements and corporate letters. The stamps in his passport matched real cities and real dates. Everything looked in order except for one detail. No country named Taured could be found on any map. Questioning only deepened the confusion. As several accounts tell it, the man pointed to the Pyrenees and insisted that his nation sat between France and Spain. The officials showed him Andorra. He reportedly grew pale and said he had never heard of it. The officers decided to hold him overnight while they verified his story. He was escorted to a guarded hotel room and told to wait. By morning, the room was empty. The windows were sealed. The door had not been opened. His passport and papers remained on the table. The traveler was gone. The case never appeared in official airport logs or government archives. Even so, the story survived. It moved through paranormal journals and Cold War-era magazines. According to those publications, the man from Taured was proof that borders were not as fixed as people believed. He became a symbol of parallel worlds and crossing timelines. Skeptics later pushed back. They noted the absence of witnesses and the lack of primary sources. By the 1990s, many researchers described Taured as a fable repeated so often that it felt true. When Torenza hit the feeds, the resemblance was immediate. A traveler arrives at a major airport. The passport looks perfect. The country is not found on any map. The person vanishes before answers arrive. Commentators called Torenza a digital reincarnation of Taured. The old myth had returned in a modern costume. Instead of being passed between magazine readers, it spread through clips and edits and stitched reactions. According to media analysts, folklore once moved by whispers. Now it moves by algorithms. Debunkers argue that both cases fall apart under scrutiny. There are no official logs for Taured. The Torenza clip shows clear signs of editing, yet something remains that people cannot shake. It is not the passport or the names of the countries. It is the desire for the world to still contain hidden corners. That is the detail that keeps the story alive. Even when a legend is dismissed, it can leave behind a truth about why people believed it in the first place. Because by then, the question was no longer about the traveler or her passport. It was about us and the kind of world we have created. The world that predicted itself. By the end, the Torenza passport was not just a story about a traveler. It was a stress test for reality in the age of infinite clips. According to media researchers, the video did not create belief on its own. It reflected what audiences were already ready to accept. The set felt familiar. The anchors sounded familiar. The graphics matched what people see every day. It was a mirror built from things we trust. AI no longer simply copies the look of truth, it copies the patterns of belief. Analysts explain that large models learn our habits. They learn which frames make us stop and which voices make us listen. The system serves more of what works. It studies our reactions and then produces the next version before we ask for it. In that loop, belief becomes a product. That is why The Simpsons sat at the center of this storm. The cartoon did not predict Torenza. We did. Years of posts about the show predicting everything taught the internet to connect any surprise to that archive. When someone posted those AI screenshots, the reaction felt natural. People filled in the missing memory because the template was already in place. Every click reinforced the path. Shares told the algorithm that the story was working. Nostalgia gave it a warm echo. According to several analysts, the line between fiction and fact now depends less on evidence and more on how much a community wants the story to be true. Once that desire is strong enough, the internet builds the scaffolding around it. Myths used to travel by rumor and campfire. Now they travel by code. The same mechanics that recommend music can recommend a mystery. The same tools that edit vacation footage can manufacture a broadcast. None of this proves that Torenza was real. It proves that the conditions for believing it were in place long before the clip appeared. So the core question shifts. The problem is not where the woman came from. The problem is why so many of us needed her to exist. Some say it is the hope that the world still has blank spaces. Others believe it is the fear that our tools deceive us and we cannot tell when. A few argue that this is what The Simpsons really foretold. Not a passport from a missing nation, but a future where truth and imagination sit side by side and trade places without warning. What do you think really happened at JFK? Was it a carefully crafted hoax, a real incident buried under edits, or something we still do not have the words to explain? Share your theory in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.